How's it going, everyone? Bob here, KD4BMG HOA Ham. I'm going to get myself in some trouble because I'm going to embark on a project that's going to take me months to complete this. The problem at hand is that I have in my possession all of the Chameleon Antenna components that are part of their various antenna kits. You can buy a complete kit from Chameleon that will give you a use case setup for specific bands and specific deployment. Do you have a small space? Do you have enough room to put up a long wire? You've got all kinds of options. But one of the really cool things about the Chameleon Antenna gear is that everything can be purchased individually. So say you have a competitive product, but you need the ability to isolate your signal from your ground spike. Well, you can buy just that individual component. Or maybe you like Chameleon's solution for ground radials using banana plugs. Well, you can buy that individual component. So what we have here is a plethora of components that I'm going to start playing with and see how many configurations I can come up with. And that's the danger. It's going to take me forever to get this done, but I'm going to start because I've toyed with some of them. Some of them allow for very small space application deployment, and you may not even realize what you can do with some of this stuff. So, well, I'm going to try to illustrate it for you over the next several months. Let's just go over real quick what we have. We have an SS25, so 25-foot long whip, 17-foot long whip, 58-inch long whip. This is the military whip. This is the military extension. This is a lazy sloper wire that you can attach to one of your verticals and get, I don't know, is that another 60 or 70 feet of length to your antenna? I don't remember exactly what that is. This is a single extension. This is the multi-configuration coil, which is a coil antenna. I'm not talking much about the ground application. I mean, the mounting system. This is just the spike, but of course, there is the jaw mount, the clamp mount, the tripod, all kinds of ways to mount. And then, so you take one mount times all of these different applications. I'm not possibly going to do them all. I don't have that much life expectancy left. But then we get into all of this right here. So we've got something that you may or may not have seen depending on when I start this video process, but this is a stainless marine adapter. So marine threads, boating, think boating. These are threads that will work with a marine application. So you can take a 3/8 by 24, a land use antenna, and convert it over to use on your boat on the lake or the ocean. And then you can take a marine antenna, which we're going to show that soon, and deploy that backyard portable. We're going to see some pretty incredible results from that. We have the tactical Delta Loop hub. You notice there's more than just two holes in this hub. It's more than just for the tactical Delta Loop. We'll go through that. We have a hub for a capacitance hat as well as Stinger ground radials. We have this isolator that basically, if you put this on the top of your ground spike, you've eliminated the, let's just say the, whatever characteristics the ground spike is giving you, you isolate it because there is a Delrin spacer here that breaks the continuity between the 3/8 by 24 stud and the 3/8 by 24 female thread on top. We have a puck adapter for ground radials using banana plugs. We've got a adapter that will go on top of a surveyor's tripod. We have the CHA Micro Mini. We have the blank adapter, again, a Delrin spacer. So the top part of this going by wire out to our SO239 takes our signal to our coax. The bottom stud is our ground. We've got the M coil, and for sure there are many, many more things in process at Chameleon Antenna today that are just soon to be introduced. And so we're now going to go backyard portable, and we're going to deploy something that I hinted at many, many months ago. I actually deployed it, but I never had the time to take it to its full application, its full testing. I really wasn't using FT8 at that point in time. I didn't have time to apply whisper to it. I just made a couple of single sideband contacts on 40 meters. And this was a very small footprint antenna. Is it going to be as good as a long wire antenna on 40? Absolutely not. But this was the multi-configuration coil tuned open Delta Loop. And I've got to look over there at my note to see what it is because it's a mouthful. Let's go backyard portable, set it up, and just show you what the specific application would be. And I'll tell you right now, small footprint. Think backyard portable. If you have a small yard, or you live in a homeowners association and you're trying to stay stealth and small footprint, this might be something you would be interested in. We're going to take these gizmos and gadgets and we're going to make that setup. This was the first time I built the open Delta Loop several months ago, so I wanted to take you through the first deployment just to show you the worst case scenario of time. There I'm putting the insulator on between the ground spike and the first section. And this first section is really just, it's a deployment setup choice. I'm putting together the top portion of this open Delta Loop so I can set it up while everything is in reach. I'm going to put my MCC on here in just a minute, my multi-configuration coil. I'm going to put my two SS 58-inch telescoping whips. I'm going to create the wire for the first time because I have not yet cut the wire to length to close the Delta Loop across the top of the SS 58s. So I built it here with just one extension rod. And then once I get this built, I get my wire cut to length. I'll pull this back out of the ground, add in the second extension rod. And that way it was much easier for me to put this together for the first time. The second deployment just went up rapidly. I'm going to say well under 5 minutes because everything was all ready to go. I had already cut my wire to length. So here I'm putting the second insulator on, the isolator, and that's breaking the continuity here, going from my MCC coil, the wire that's yet to be deployed, connecting the two SS58s, and that's why I'm calling this an open Delta Loop. So many times you hear me talking about not being careless with your antenna setup. By that, I simply mean follow the manufacturer's guidelines and instructions. They would have created the design and the components to achieve something very specific. Well, in this case, there is no design out there like this that I'm aware of. I don't want to discourage you from experimenting. So don't take my comments about following manufacturer's instructions to mean don't experiment. I mean, don't be reckless. Don't be careless. Don't be sloppy. There's probably the best thing. Don't be sloppy in your setup. Always put up the best setup you possibly can. But by all means, test. The reason I am doing this is because in a small backyard, I'm going to end up with an 8-foot by 8-foot, about 8 feet tall and 8 feet wide before this upside down triangle is spread out. That's a small deployment on a small lot. And in many homeowners associations, if you can't see something from the road, then it doesn't raise anybody's question or concern. As a matter of fact, many HOA board of directors say if you can't see it from the road, we don't care about it. So if that's your situation, you might be able to get on 40 meters. And again, I'm doing this to get on 40 meters because that's very difficult for me to do in my small lot. First time deployment is complete. The longest part of this setup was cutting that wire to length. And we'll go ahead and get our coax attached now and check with our SWR. Again, remember, I've stated this was my first deployment a couple of months ago. I reset this back up in the yard last week, and I'll go ahead and show you my SWR reading on 40 meters. And then we'll also do a check on 30 and 80 because it dawned on me. I don't do much on 30 meters. Maybe this would be a good application for that. And I can't get on 80 meters either in my small lot. Maybe this would work for me on 80.
Kilo Delta 4, Bravo Mike Dog, Whiskey 4, Papa United Delta, Sumner County, Tennessee. You're 5'9", I'm 1 Alpha.
You're 5'9", Tampa, Florida.
Roger, thank you.
November 2, Alpha Victor Yankee. You are 5'9", 59 into Tampa, Florida. How me?
84, Bravo Mike Golf. This is November 2, Alpha Victor Yankee. I got you 22, 22, 20
QSL, I'll take the 2-2. 2-2 to me and 5-9 to you. Roger, roger. The 5-9 contact both ways with Whiskey 4 Papa Uniform Delta was when I first set this system up a few months ago, just testing the theory and configuration to see if it would work, to see if in a small footprint it would get me some contacts. And I prefer single sideband. And then what followed is a contact on the NADANet with November 2 Alpha Victor Yankee, where he was hearing me 2-2 and I was hearing him 5-9. He lit up my waterfall quite strong. The next contact you will hear is me chasing POTA, Kilo 4 India Sierra uniform, and we're giving each other 5-5 both ways. Many times I'm recording the sound out of my IC7300 with this microphone, and it's not very directional, so you could barely hear him, but he was coming through 5-5 to me. Let's then jump on over to digital and see what we could do there. Kilo Delta 4 Bravo Mike Golf. QSL, you're 5-5 into Tampa, Florida. 7-3, have a blast, friend. So I can't locate my SWR sweep on 40 this time around, but I did grab my photo of my first installation and I got it to 1.07 to 1 relatively easily. And here's how you tune this open delta loop. It's just by configuring the coil. And you will see me here in a few moments. I actually tune up on 30 meters and 80 meters. I thought to myself, well, 30 meters, I don't often get to operate 30. Let's go ahead and give that a try. And then, good grief, is this thing going to work on 80? I didn't think it would, but I went ahead and tuned it anyway. So here is my FT8 on 40 meters, goofing around there for about 15 minutes and able to pull in 3 contacts with relative ease. You can see from PSK Reporter, I'm doing just fine. And here is my 24-hour whisper map on 40 meters. This is pretty close to how far I had my coil extended on 40. To tune up to 30, I basically collapsed my coil the entire way, and I actually had to collapse one of my 58-inch antennas just a smidge. And you can see we can operate here under 2 to 1. And within 15 minutes of playing on FT8 on 30 meters, I was able to make a couple of contacts. You can see from PSK Reporter, I'm being heard just fine. The first whisper map represents the same period of time, the same 15 minutes that I was playing with FT8. And then the second whisper map shows later on into the evening, I was getting all the way over into Europe. That's a 24-hour whisper map. For reference, my wire at the top between the two SS58s is 103 inches long. Yours is going to be approximately the same thing if you choose this. I just use this B&Techco wire and then 2 Mueller alligator clips, and they just clip on top of the SS58s just like this. And if you actually spin them from side to side, you can shorten or lengthen this up and create some variation to your wire length. And I did need that going from 30 up to 80 because I did go nuts here. I thought to myself, good grief, you got on 30 meters, you were trying to get on 40. That was the objective of this entire experiment. Good grief, you've got the antenna up. Let's adjust to 80 meters. So by the time we were done there, the coil was pretty far extended, and all I did was put my analyzer on the end of my coax and adjust my coil, and that's how I could get onto 80. If I remember, I'll show that here in a second. SWR wasn't real happy, and I did have to use my internal tuner. I think I was over 3 to 1 or close to 3 to 1, so I did tune up before trying FT8. Let's look at that next. Yep, that was my recollection. SWR wasn't so great. We started at 3 and we end at 4. Now, I did add the puck to this installation initially. You may have noticed that. But I really didn't have any expectation of getting onto 80, so I really wasn't concerned about trying to get my SWR any better than what it was. This is not an 80-meter antenna. And in spite of what PSK Reporter is showing you here, that I was being heard, I was only able to eke out one single contact. And here's a look at our whisper map. No, you're not misreading it. It's not there. I couldn't make a single whisper contact. So this is not an 80-meter antenna. Now, I didn't start thinking that it would be. I was chasing 40 meters. I decided to pick up 30, which worked quite well. Thought while I was up to try 80, yeah, 80 is a massive fail. This is not an 80-meter antenna. So before I give you my final thoughts on this and give you some recommendations, let's talk about our next antenna installation in this Lego-like setup. Think Lincoln Logs, that's what I had when I was a little kid, or an erector set. Maybe it's Legos, maybe it's Connects, but multiple parts that can make multiple configurations. So here's what we're going to do next time is we're going to remove the radial puck and not put it in at all. We're going to take our two insulators and completely pull them out of the mix. They will not be part of the next party, but we're going to be using almost probably 95%, 90% of the same component setup, but the antenna is going to be completely different. It's not next week's video, but it will be the next video in this series. So let me give you my final thoughts on this antenna setup for 40 meters. I'm trying in this mini video series to encourage you to experiment. Take really good components, whether they're Chameleons or anybody else's, components that you can find to give you different installations, different deployments. Why do I do this? Well, because you don't always find yourself in the ideal environment. Sometimes you just have to make it up on the fly. Maybe you're in an MCOM situation and you forgot a particular piece of gear. Can you reconfigure the components that are available to you into a workable antenna? Maybe you're out on a POTA and something failed and you need to take the equipment at your disposal. Come up with something that works. For me, I'm on a small lot in a home governed by a homeowners association where I'm trying to be stealth, an 8-foot by 8-foot small form factor installation to get me on 40 meters. That's what I'm trying to do, and that's what I'm trying to encourage you to do. Experiment. That was today's experiment. Get onto 40 meters with a multi-configuration coil open delta loop. Who ever heard of such a thing? We've seen delta loops, of course, but what about one that's an open delta loop and it's much smaller than you would have expected to find for 40 meters? Well, band coverage here was 40 meters, and I only gave this a 75% because I just haven't had enough time to work it. On digital, it seems to work just fine. On single sideband voice, I had the same type of experience I do have on other antennas, but because it's so small, my brain just says I can't give it 100% because I just don't know. I haven't had a chance to use it long enough, and I can't keep it up long term. Even though it's stealth, it still is visible to the neighbors in the backyard. 30 meters had no trouble doing digital. 20 meters, I guess I could have collapsed the whips enough to get it down to 20 meters, but why bother with that multi-configuration coil and one of those SS58 telescoping whips? I have 20 meters in a small form factor. I didn't need to try this open delta loop on that. 80 meters, yeah, I made a contact, but this is not an 80 meter antenna. So we can go 500 watts single sideband, 300 watts on CW, and 200 watts on digital. Portability, high. A lot of small components here, easy to transport. Stealth, medium. And again, I'm saying medium simply because you can still see these things in my backyard. If I was living in a homeowners association where if you can't see it from the front yard, from the street, we don't care, well, then this is a pass, and it's actually, high rated in that particular circumstance, but I put stealth medium because it could still be seen by my neighbors. And then setup high because this was a very rapid setup. Other than creating that wire to go between the top of the two SS58s, this was rapid. And once you get that wire done and you get your alligator clips connected, then it's a quick setup in the future. 5 minutes or less. Tuning with that multi-configuration coil is really rapid. So again, I'm looking to give you some thoughts on being creative, and maybe you need to come up with your own measurement system. These are the factors that are important to me. I relay them to you. What are the things that are important to you? How would you measure this type of installation for your particular needs? I'm just giving you ideas. Springboard off of my ideas to arrive at your own conclusions for your particular deployment. Can't wait to show you the next one. Talk to you soon, friend. 73.